And that one conversation changed the trajectory of his life. That drove his financial decision. Hello and welcome. My name is Gino Barbaro, one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino. And in this how-to video, we're going to be discussing what really drives your financial decisions. I speak to a lot of Jake and Gino members, and when they get on, they want to invest in multifamily, but they may be investing in something else. They're buying a home. They're buying crypto. And I think for most of us, we don't really stop and think about what's driving our decisions, and more importantly, what biases we have. Now, let me give you a quick example. If you were born during the Depression back in the 1920s, 1929 was the Depression, but if you grew up in the 30s, it was a difficult time. You grew up with scarcity. Your thoughts were all about saving, going out, getting a job, getting a pension, making sure that you had enough for the rainy day. Don't take risk. The stock market is risky. Corporations are risky. You needed stability. That was your biasing. Now in the 1970s, what happened in the 70s? We went off the gold standard and all of a sudden high interest rates. I mean, rates went from 6% up to 17% in a short period of time. All of a sudden, real estate's risky. High interest rates. Can't buy a home. That's what your biases were if you grew up in the 70s. Now in the 2000s, it's a dot-com bubble. You know, back in after 9/11, airplane stocks, everything seemed like it was going to hell in a handbasket. Those are your biases. Now let's talk about the 2008 recession. If you grew up in that era, what happened? CMBS loans. Banks are terrible. All of a sudden, I'm looking at deals. The economy's crashing. Everything is really risky. It's a tough time to get through it. And a lot of people who are in real estate just checked out at that point. I got into the restaurant because of my family. That's what drove my financial decision early on. And I'll share a quick story with you about what I think really shaped my life. And I think this is what I want you to do as you're listening to this podcast and as you reflect when you shut it off and it's over. Go back into your childhood. When I was 5 years old, I was with my grandma. My grandma's Italian. She spoke very little English. And I remember specifically the day that I was with her, we went to the store. It was called the A&P in New York. This is years ago. I was only 5 years old. And I remember going to the store. She went to do her grocery shopping. And I said to Grandma, I said, Nonna, can I buy these toy soldiers? And I don't remember how much they were. All I remember is Grandma said to me, Gino, I don't have the money right now. When we go home, we'll call your mom. And when your mom comes home, comes to pick you up, we can go buy them. And I remember the fear of not being able to buy them and going home empty-handed. Now, Grandma didn't have credit cards back then. She just had enough to do shopping. And that left such an imprint on my mind that when I was, looking back at my life about a year ago into my childhood, that was, I don't want to call it a trauma because you may misconstrue it as something that really bad happened in my life, but that was my money blueprint. I equated, if I don't get something now, then I'm going to lose it forever. Because I remember going home, but I don't remember going back to the store and buying them. And I remember also that money is scarce. I need to save money because God forbid if I need something, I'm not going to have enough money. Go back into your childhood. What did you hear about money? More importantly, what kind of decisions did the people around you make? When I was in the restaurant business for all those years, I didn't have people. I had one person or two people that I knew that were investing in real estate. The majority of the people in the restaurant business, that's all they focused on was restaurant. That's all they talked. They talked restaurant shop. That was my financial decision. And I didn't even think about scaling because none of them scaled. So be careful who you surround yourself with. That's why it's important to join a community. That's why when I created Jake and Gino, it was all about multifamily. It was all about like-minded people going through the journey and focusing on becoming multifamily entrepreneurs. If you want to learn more, go to jakeandgino.com/apply. Learn more about the community. More importantly, if you want to learn the framework, buy right, manage right, finance right, email me, gino@jakeandgino.com, and I'll send you a free PDF copy. But getting back to that story, that one really left an imprint. Other things that really focused and really challenged my financial decisions was I constantly kept hearing these words from my parents. You have to save for a rainy day. Don't take too much risk. It takes money to make money. And all of these things left an imprint on me. And every time I made a financial decision, was I overspending? Did I have enough money saved? Was I taking on too much risk? Which is insane, because if you think about it, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you have the W-2, whether you have a small business, or whether you're in apartments, whether you're in single family homes, there's risk everywhere. The way you reduce the risk is by becoming really good at what you're doing. Listen, I had that one small business, and I look back at it when COVID hit. If I had still been at the restaurant, my mom saying it wasn't risky, I would have lost over 25 years of hard work in one fell swoop in 2 months in that beginning of 2020. I would have lost everything. So was there risk? Absolutely. What are the financial decisions? What is driving you? I ended up having to save. That was my blueprint. But every time I needed to spend, it felt like I was being punished. That's why I did the work. Go back into your childhood and start challenging those thoughts. Those are what we call limiting beliefs. They're in you. They're called energy blocks. And once I realized, hey, it's okay, things started to change for me. For me, real estate was a place that my parents actually taught me to, if you have that extra savings, put into it. For Jake, an important inflection in his life when he was working with a doctor he called Dr. Neshi up in New York. At the time, all these doctors' offices were getting bought out, and they were going to these groups, medical groups, because it was just, they weren't making money. Dr. Neshi was the only one that was holding out. And Jake just asked him one day, how are you doing that? And Dr. Neshi told Jake, I love what I'm doing as a doctor. I can do this because I've got real estate and I have passive income coming in. And I can do what I love because I have the stability from real estate. And that changed everything for Jake. When he met me, he's like, I want to do real estate. And more specifically, I want to do multifamily. And that one conversation changed the trajectory of his life. That drove his financial decision. Now, what I want you to do as I'm wrapping this up, this is really about you. What's your relationship with money? And be honest with yourself. Do you have the scarcity mindset? I mean, I did. I had that scarcity mindset. There was never enough money. I needed money to make money. And then when I learned creative financing and I learned syndication, well, do you need money or do you need skills? And the skills will produce the money. That's really important. Do you need instant gratification or can you defer? What's going on? Do you need that dopamine hit to make yourself feel better? Or I got to go buy something. Is that the way I'm making decisions on an impulse? Or am I thinking about it logically and rationally? Challenge yourself every time you get that urge. Well, I've got 10 grand. I need to put it somewhere. Where do I put it? Stop, reflect back, and think about your childhood. Think about your past. All those stories that you've been telling yourselves. Challenge yourselves. Are you a deal junkie? That's one of the things that, is very difficult with multifamily as opposed to other areas. You can do 1 or 2 deals a year in multifamily for the next 3 to 4 years. Look back and go, my life is completely changed. For Jake and myself, we did 1 deal in 18 months. It took us 18 months to do that first deal. By the end of 24 months, we had almost 200 units. And by the end of 5 years, we had over 500 units. It was scattered over 5 or 6 deals, but on average, 1 deal a year. You don't have to be a deal junkie if you want to become financially free. What are your financial decisions in your mind allowing you to do? And ultimately, do you have goals and or objectives? As you're looking back, what are your values? Start making financial decisions based on your values. Yes, I wanted safety. That's part of my blueprint, but I also wanted to create income. My values were long-termism, responsibility, and multifamily is great for that. I wanted to create an enduring organization. I wanted to buy deals and hold on to these deals. And that's what multifamily allowed me to do. So as you're reflecting on this, I want you to think of the stories you're telling yourselves. What's really driving you? And are you have any biases? Now, there's no right or wrong answers. I mean, I think if I grew up during the Depression, I'd have those biases as well. But you don't have to hold on to those biases because you can look around. For every person that has a scarcity mindset, there's somebody out there that has the abundance mindset. And that's the same thing that happened in 2008. I decided when the economy was crashing, I see everything around me, I decided at that point, after I read T. Harv Eker's book, that I want to become responsible. I wanted to change. I didn't want to have that scarcity mindset anymore. That abundance mindset led me to Jake. And then that led to the partnership. And then that led me to parting with my savings and allowing me to put my savings into real estate. Now, I want to thank you for spending part of your time with me today. Reflect back on the stories you're telling yourselves, and I will see you on next week's How To. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like and subscribe so you'll never miss another episode.